My girlfriend has been getting hot with my best friend behind my back, and all my friends already knew but didn't tell me, so I'm leaving them all behind because revenge is best served cold. Posted by u/visual_cow_657. I found out a month ago that the love of my life and my best friend have been having an affair for at least the past year. After looking into it more, I discovered that not only did all our friends know, but they have also been actively hanging out with them. I'm a socially awkward individual, so making friends is hard for me. I met all of them through my best friend, so I guess it's natural they chose him over me. I hate all of them. I spent 24/7 with one of them when their parent died because they didn't want to be alone and were a danger to themselves. I was there for another when her boss was harassing her, and she needed help finding a new job. I let another one stay at my place for free for 3 months because his parents kicked him out when he told them he was gay. All 6 of those douchebags have been through so much, and I was there for every one of them. Now I realize they all just kept me around to use me when they needed me, including my girlfriend and best friend. I helped him start his business when no one else would invest in him. It still hasn't really taken off, and he still asks for my time to help him with things. I've been working day and night to help her pay off the medical bills from her surgery after she had an accident. I've been out of the house for a few months because my mother was sick, and I needed to help her, but I still commute back 10 hours every weekend to make sure my girlfriend is doing alright. I went through her phone and saw all the pictures, flirty messages, and group chats. I saw them planning outings, meetings, and all that. I also read the disparaging messages about me, the I love yous and the back and forth between still loving me, leaving me, not wanting to hurt me anymore, and then realizing they still need me. They all still need me. I was pissed, and I was so angry, I scared myself. The thing about being the go-to guy for help, and being the quiet one, is that people trust you. They tell you things that can get you in a lot of trouble. I've spent the past month preparing my plan, getting everything in order to absolutely implode their lives in a way they can never recover from without someone altruistically helping them out. But who will help them? Not me. And they can't ask each other because they'll all be in the same damn boat. Everything was ready. I had pictures, videos, and text logs. The lease would have been up in December, and I wasn't renewing it. I have a new job lined up that would pay less, but I know I'll enjoy it. All my main belongings were already out, and the rest I didn't care about. I pretended to go out to my mom's, waited an hour, and then came back. Through the windows, I saw them, him and her cuddling and kissing, while the others sat around, chatting like it was just another regular day. I took a picture of that scene. I was ready to send the texts and emails, fully prepared to set their lives ablaze. I couldn't do it. No matter how much someone has hurt me, I couldn't be responsible for ruining their lives. Sure, they did those things, and I was just unearthing them, but it would still have been my decision that burned them all, and there would have been collateral damage to people who did nothing. I had come this far and felt I had to do something, so I just sent the picture in the group chat and waited. One by one, they saw the message and started panicking, I guess. Eventually, one of them spotted my car, and I saw them all look at me. I don't know what was going through their heads, panic, regret, guilt, sadness? Who knows? I started my car, and as I began to drive off, my ex came running out, barefoot in the cold, moving as fast as she could despite her condition. I don't know if she was crying from guilt or regret, but I didn't care. I drove off to my mom's. They called me countless times and sent thousands of messages. I used to read every one, and with each, I felt less for them. The messages went from asking for forgiveness to anger, to groveling, and eventually to questions about how they would handle all the things I used to do for them. I don't care. I'm getting a new number on Monday. I still get a new sobbing voicemail from my ex every 20 to 30 minutes, begging me to come back. I get texts from my ex-best friend, telling me to come back and beat him up, saying he'd sell everything he owns and give it to me. My friends are apologizing for their parts and asking to be pals again. I don't know what drives this, but they know I've read some of their messages. I think I'm over it. I don't feel angry anymore, and I'm glad I didn't stoop to their level. It would have never been satisfying for me. Update 11 months later. Hi everyone. I happen to remember this account, so I decided, why not update you all? First of all, my mom is doing much better and is even preparing for a 5K. Her goal is to complete one by 2025. Thank you for all your well wishes. As for me, I wish I could say everything is going great and that I'm doing amazing, or that my ex-friends and ex-girlfriend are doing terribly and are destitute. But life isn't a movie or a storybook, and things don't always work out the way we'd like them to. But it can get pretty close. I'm doing amazing. My new job has been one of the most fulfilling experiences of my life. Since I stopped paying for unnecessary medical bills and rent for a place I never really cared about, I've saved up so much money. I decided to finally invest that money in something worthwhile, myself. I didn't hit the gym or anything, but I did get some work done on my teeth. They had some minor discoloration, and when they shaped them for a crown and removed the layers, it looked like they were painted with Pepsi or something. That small change gave me a real boost in confidence. I've started buying more clothes and building outfits. I also began taking anti-anxiety meds, which have really brought me out of my shell. I feel so much better. And on top of that, I met someone a few weeks ago. We've just been talking through text, but it seems to be going well. I don't really know what's going on with the people I left behind. I've heard some rumors, but they came from a long chain of people, so I don't really trust them. Supposedly, my ex and ex-best friend are having a baby, which has caused financial issues for them, especially with the medical debt and a struggling business venture, but somehow they're making it work. The girl I helped get a job was apparently caught in an affair with her boss, who may or may not be married, it's unclear. He threw her under the bus professionally to save himself, but she seems to have landed on her feet because the company wanted to avoid a scandal. Another one of them recently got engaged to his girlfriend. Last I remember, he was single, so I have no idea how long they've been involved. The guy I housed for 3 months is doing fine too, but there's talk that he may have contracted an STD from one of his one-night stands. I have no information on the last guy. So, a mixed bag of good for me and a little bad for them, but nothing terrible, just normal life issues. I guess it's as close as one gets to karmic justice. The last contact I had with my ex was an email 6 months ago. She detailed how sorry she was about the fallout from her actions. She explained that she had fallen in love with him while still loving me and didn't know how to navigate that. It was a rough time for her, as she relied on me so much that it made her resentful, and something about being with him made her feel more in control. She ended the email by expressing regret for the hurt she caused, but said she didn't regret loving me or him. She mentioned that she still loves us both and would always be there if I needed her. I never responded because there was no need. I can understand her perspective. It doesn't mean I condone her actions, but I can somewhat forgive her and move on from this for good. Humans are complex, and so is love. Sometimes, we end up hurting the ones we love the most. While I don't like her or what she did, I believe she truly loved us both. She has no reason to lie about that now. Anyway, c'est la vie. Have a good evening, everyone, and don't spend any energy getting upset on my behalf. Commenter. I think the photo was the right move. It left them all scrambling, sending messages as terrible people trying to save themselves. Not showing your hand probably caused a lot of anxiety, at the very least.
My husband, M29, gave me, F26, an ultimatum. Stop people pleasing or we're getting a divorce. How do I even respond? My husband and I met 7 years ago at the same university, started dating a year after that, and have been married now for 2. Other than this one issue, we get along very well and are generally really happy and good with each other. I will admit that I do have people-pleasing issues. I'm not really sure why. I think I'm just overly nice. My husband and friends have told me I can be a doormat to people. I'd always apologize first. I don't tend to argue with people. And I have been known to go out of my way to do something not explicitly necessary. I know this about myself. My husband clearly knows this about me too, as I've always been this way. He's encouraged me to figure out why I'm this way, and one time a long time ago, he yelled at a friend of mine who was taking advantage of me in that sense. But that's about it. I'm also a pediatric oncology nurse at a really large hospital in a central city in my area. As you can imagine, my job is pretty taxing, emotionally and physically. I recently got a new charge nurse and she's not very nice. I complain to my husband often about it. Last night, I was laying in bed doing like absolutely nothing. My husband comes into the room, so stressed and angry looking, and snaps at me, "You need to stop being such a faking doormat, or I have to leave." Seriously, my name? It's getting faking annoying. I was shocked and also confused, since we hadn't been talking about anything like that. I asked him what he meant, and his tone did make me immediately tear up. My husband has never yelled at me like that before, blatantly rude and cursing at me. He rolled his eyes and told me, "Your job, your friends, this marriage, all you do is lay down and let people walk on you." I said I don't mean to do that, and I'm sorry, but he just stormed out of the room after that. He left to work so early this morning we didn't even have a chance to talk. He sent me a text this morning. All it said was, "I'm sorry. We're gonna talk tonight." Like, what does that even mean? I'm so distraught. I can't believe that he yelled at me like that. What am I even supposed to say now? I mean, going to therapy if that's what he really wants me to do, but I doubt I'm gonna change. I've always been this way. Is my marriage doomed then? My dad came to my apartment with gifts for 2 young kids. I do not have any kids. Located my dad. I'm with him in the hospital. He has serious brain damage from a fall. I don't think he fell, but what do I know? Hi everyone. I wanted to wait until I had more information to post an update, but a lot of people were seriously worried about my dad and I, so I wanted to let everyone know what happened. I finally found my dad. My uncle took him to the hospital the night of the incident and was, for reasons I'll get to, ignoring our calls and texts. Anyone who bet on head injury and drugs, you're correct. You can cash out your chips at the front counter, haha. There was no second family. I wish there was. My dad would just be in drama-related trouble and not medical trouble. He's got a massive concussion and serious brain damage. Doctors don't know how he managed to even drive to my apartment safely. They think he was on autopilot, since he takes that freeway nearly every day. The phantom kids are his coworkers. His brain somehow blended the details of his coworker's life into his own. Coworker has a daughter who is married and has 2 kids, and the memories of being told about the girls mashed together with memories of his own daughter. Doctor says this is pretty common with head injuries. My uncle did find my dad and take him to the hospital. He did drive out to my area and scour the place looking for my dad, and eventually found his car outside Walmart around 10 p.m. Couldn't find him outside, but did find him out behind the building, harassing an employee for a cigarette. He grabbed my dad and kind of dragged him into the car and took him to the hospital. He just decided not to update anyone because he didn't want to stress us out. I don't believe him at all. I think my uncle is responsible for what happened to my dad and was avoiding us out of guilt. After I posted here, I went to work, and once I was clocked out, I went to my dad/uncle's place. Dad and uncle's cars were gone, only my aunt's was there. I went and knocked, but nobody answered. People in my last post mentioned carbon monoxide poisoning, and I was kind of freaking out thinking my aunt was just fucking dead inside, so I went around the house testing the doors and windows to see if I could get in. The back door was unlocked, so I just let myself inside and looked around. Totally empty. I even checked underneath the bed since a couple people mentioned my dad could be paranoid or scared and hiding. My aunt has this giant purse and it wasn't there, which confirmed to me that she was probably with my uncle. I went back and sat in my car and started calling any hospitals and jails that came up on Google Maps. Nobody had any answers and just said he wasn't there. I'd even called the cops for a wellness check just to see if maybe they could call around hospitals and get a different answer, but I waited until 11-ish and literally nobody came. No police, no family, nobody. I drive back home and try to get some sleep. Next day I call out of work and spend the day driving around my area trying to find my dad. Couldn't track him down, so I start calling hospitals again. There's 3 in my area, and while 2 of them gave me no, he's not here, sorry, one of them got really nervous over the phone and said I'm not supposed to give out patient information. I got US, kept asking, and she just got more and more flustered. Hung up and drove my ass over there and saw my uncle's car in the parking lot. It was kind of late, the sun was down, but I wasn't keeping track of time, so there were only like 5 cars in the visitor area and his was one of them. I do not have words to describe what I was feeling, but it was mostly just rage. Like, what the fuck? Hello, he's been here the whole time? I went in and tried to get the receptionist to let me see my dad. She didn't really want to let me, and I'm not proud of it, but I started freaking out. I slammed my hands on the desk, screamed, knocked over a magazine rack. I guess my tantrum made someone go talk to my uncle and aunt since she came out to the waiting room and told the receptionist it was fine to let me through. If she didn't look so tired and sad, I was going to maul her, but the look on her face made me calm down, if you can call it that. Long story short, she took me to my dad's room. He looked terrible. None of you know my dad, but he's a beast. He's 5'11" with massive smile lines and bright, shining eyes. He's my dad, so I'm biased, but he's always so full of life. Laying in the hospital bed, he looked dead already. Sunken eyes, lifeless, and droopy face. He looked empty. I was able to talk to him for a bit, but he was totally out of it. He had to be reminded who I was several times and kept forgetting where he was and why he was here. Just like my dad, when I get upset, I get angry. I practically dragged my uncle out of the room and into the hallway for an explanation. After like 20 minutes of him making excuses and beating around the bush, another reason I think he's guilty, he told me what happened. Apparently Monday morning my dad fell, getting out of his car, and cracked his head really hard against the driveway. He got up and everyone thought he was fine, so they just went inside the house as normal. After a while he had a headache, so they gave him a couple prescription painkillers to ease the pain. Apparently that worked, so they just let him continue his day as normal. They only got concerned when I called and told my uncle what happened. He kept being so weird and evasive that I know there's more, but I couldn't wring his stupid fucking neck in the hospital hallway, so I just let it go. Here's what I think happened. I know my uncle and dad, and I know the history of this stupid family like the back of my hands. I think my dad and uncle got in a fight over something, and dad was either pushed down or hit in the head by my uncle. The altercation gets resolved somehow, and they go back to normal, but my dad's head still hurts. I learned at wth.reddit from the doctor that there were enough painkillers in his body to numb a horse, so I suspect my aunt and uncle just kept feeding him painkillers so they wouldn't need to take my dad to the hospital and admit what they did. I pressed my aunt about the painkillers and she eventually halfway admitted that they weren't exactly allowed to have them at all. I suspect she bought them off someone else. They're likely addicted and I just didn't know. I'm almost 100% sure this is their fault. If they had taken my dad to the hospital as soon as he hit his head, he would probably be okay. I'm staying at the hospital now and my aunt and uncle have left. Doctor says to not get my hopes up about my dad. But when doctors say that, it always means he'll actually be okay, right? That's how it always goes. They tell you that your family member probably won't make it, but they always prove them wrong. I'm sorry, but the rest of this is just going to be venting. You know what really gets me? I could handle all this. I could understand it. My uncle and aunt have always been less than reliable. I can believe that this could come from them. The hardest part is the lack of concern from literally anyone but me. I had to blackmail my brother, drama from a year ago, to even get him to agree to fly out. My mom doesn't care. Dad's family doesn't care. My sister kind of cares, but she doesn't really want to help or even come support me in the hospital with him. I am just so shocked that I'm the only motherfucker here for my dad, and he doesn't even know who I am right now. I have to take time off work, but it's not like my job gives me PTO. I'm fucked. My dad is fucked. My life is fucked. Why am I the only one dealing with this? My brother is the only one of us with time and money to help fix this, and I had to threaten him just to get him to come back home. I wish I had chased my dad when he left my apartment. I was afraid of him, but I'm even more afraid now. My dad is probably going to die, and I trusted the jackass who killed him with helping him. What's wrong with me? What's wrong with everyone? Why doesn't anyone give a shit about my dad? Why doesn't anyone give a shit about me? I could have been a better daughter to him. I could have visited more, called more, involved him in things more. I could have chased him when he left my apartment. I might have gotten hurt, but I would rather be beaten to a pulp rather than be sitting in a hospital room with my unconscious and probably dying father. I'm so fucking stupid. I'm sorry, Dad.
41M in a fight with 44F wife on cruise with kids. What can I do to make things better? On a 4-day cruise with the wife and 2 daughters. Was walking around the observation deck of our ship, stopped and took a picture with the family. Everything was going great. I mistakenly thought we were continuing to walk and take the girls' hands and keep walking. After a couple steps, literally like 10 or 20 steps, not far, I turn around and the wife is gone. We retrace our steps and go around the other side of the ship, thinking that she'd meet us at the elevators. She's not there, but has started sending me texts about how she's at the front of the ship. I take the girls back around and find her sitting at the windows at the front of the observation deck, just lounging. She starts telling me how I broke her heart as she watched me, and the girls just walk away. I legit was so confused and asked why she just watched her husband and daughters walk away and why she didn't say anything or catch up to us. This just makes her angrier, and she said I threw the kids in her face. It's now been 24 hours on a cruise and my wife is barely speaking to me. I keep asking to speak to her, and she refuses and says, "What's the point? So you can attack me again?" I apologized for walking away and said I should have looked back, but when I asked her why she didn't just catch up or say anything, she just accused me of attacking her again and started crying. I legitimately don't know what to do. Is she sabotaging our vacation? Am I just a huge fucking asshole here? For any female Redditors out there, please help me to understand what I did wrong and how I can try to make this right. As I boarded flight 752, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. It was a typical Tuesday with passengers bustling to find their seats, stow their luggage, and settle in for the journey. But as the flight progressed, something extraordinary happened that I will never forget. About an hour into the flight, a sudden jolt startled everyone. The plane shook violently, and a chorus of gasps filled the cabin. Panic began to set in among the passengers. That's when I noticed an older gentleman in the row across from me calmly reaching into his bag. He pulled out a small, unremarkable-looking device and started fiddling with it. I watched puzzled as he seemed completely unfazed by the commotion around him. The flight attendants were rushing through the aisles trying to reassure passengers, but the turbulence only seemed to worsen. Then the gentleman stood up, steadying himself against the shaking cabin, and made his way to the front of the plane. He spoke briefly with a flight attendant who looked at him skeptically at first, but then nodded gravely. He disappeared into the cockpit with the pilots. The minutes that followed were tense. Whispers and speculations spread among the passengers. Who was this man? What was he doing? I felt a mix of fear and curiosity. Suddenly, the turbulence stopped, the plane stabilized, and the overhead announcements came on thanking us for our patience and explaining that we had experienced a rare but severe atmospheric disturbance. As we landed safely, I'd overheard a flight attendant talking to a colleague. The man, it turned out, was a retired aerospace engineer. He had recognized the symptoms of a specific kind of engine malfunction. Due to his years of experience using his improvised device, he had helped the pilots adjust the engine settings, preventing what could have been a disastrous situation. He returned to his seat as if nothing had happened, refusing any kind of fuss or attention. Most passengers were unaware of the role he had played, but I couldn't shake the feeling of awe and gratitude. It's incredible how a single person's knowledge and calmness in a crisis can make such a difference. As I disembarked, I caught a glimpse of the man quietly collecting his belongings, an unsung hero, a guardian angel in plain clothes who had saved us all on flight 752.